Hi, Tony here, and welcome to what is a first on this channel, and that's a review of a Harley-Davidson. Now, I haven't reviewed any before, not because I don't like the bike, but just because I haven't had access to them, and thankfully the guys at Harley-Davidson UK have supplied me with this Sport Glide to review. Now, I've ridden Harley-Davidsons before, I've never owned one. I'm not particularly brand loyal to any brand out there in the marketplace. So this review is the review of the 2021 Harley-Davidson Sport Glide from a person that's not particularly a fan of Harley-Davidsons or cruisers in general. So will this bike win me over? Let's see.
Okay, so let's start with some numbers. This 2021 Sport Glide is powered by the 107 cubic inch Milwaukee 8 motor. The engine puts out a peak of 139 newton meters of torque, right down at 3,500 revs, and there's 83 or 85 horsepower, I'm not sure, I'll put the numbers on the screen, at 5,450. Now, I always see comments on forums and online and on videos saying, well, 1700cc engine and it only puts out 85 horsepower, but it's all about the way that power is delivered, and we'll touch on that later on. Let's just concentrate on some of the numbers and get those out of the way for now. So we've got the power and the torque, and one of the big numbers that always gets mentioned in Harley-Davidson's reviews is the weight. This baby is 317 kilos, ready to go, fully fueled, all of the liquids in them. It's got an 18.9 litre fuel tank, and the brochure says that it's got a 43 miles per gallon fuel economy. Obviously, with a bike of this style, things like the seat height is all very accessible. On this model it's 680 millimeters, so nice and low, and obviously that's handy when you're moving or shuffling a big bike like this around. It's got equally chunky tyres on it as well. It's running with the Michelin Scorchers, and there is a 130 section 18 inch on the front and a 180 section 16 inch rim on the back. And those Michelin Scorcher tyres are wrapped around what I think are really nice looking cast aluminium Mantis wheels with polished spokes. Now, this bike in its standard form starts at 15,995 for the 2021 model. It's available in 5 colours. This colour, which I really like, is lovely, is a gauntlet grey metallic. That's a £350 option if you want the bike in that colour. And as you imagine from a bike like this, it's not massively feature packed in terms of technology. It does have a USB charger on it, it does have cruise control as standard, but that's about it really. But that's not what this bike is about. This bike is Harley-Davidson's answer to having a mix of performance and touring in their eyes. So the bikini pairing is part of the package, as are the panniers, both of which are removable and quite easily removable as well. So we've covered off some of the key numbers. What's the riding experience like? Well, let's start with ergonomics. This bike has forward controls, which I find pretty comfortable. Got a nice big squishy comfy seat, it's like an armchair, nice sweatback bars, so for me, I'm sat in a really nice comfortable position, and obviously that's the point. This needs to be comfortable for long distances, because you're going to be wanting to use this for a bit of touring. And as you would know with Harley-Davidson, everything is reliably chunky. The grips are nice and chunky, the levers are nice and chunky, just everything there is solid, shall we say. You know, where some people would find a negative, you could put a spin on stuff, so people say the gearbox is clunky, and when you put it in first gear you get that clunk. Yeah, you can say that. I would also say that it's satisfyingly positive, in the sense that I know exactly when I've put this into gear. Does the switch gear is all very solid. This is a keyless ignition, this bike, so we've got the power switch on and off starter. On this side you've got dippers, your cruise control at the bottom here, which comes as standard, and then a button up here to be able to cycle through the menu on this little digital gauge on the tank. There's a few nice design details. You know, we've got this fake sort of dual tank. This is just a dummy. You can unscrew that. There's nothing underneath it but a clip. You just fill it in from one side, but it's nice that they've done that with this rubberized tank strap at the bottom. It's typical Harley. I think it's a really nice looking bike. It's too much chrome on it for me. I'm not a lover of chrome on bikes, but it is, I think, a really nice looking bike. And with the bikini fairing and the panniers, it's got a really nice profile. And the panniers are pretty roomy as well. I've got camera equipment in there at the moment. I haven't checked to see if you can fit a helmet in there, but I will do that and let you know if that's the case. But actually it's quite nice to have the panniers permanently on the bike. It blends in really nicely, nothing really sticks out, but just to be able to pick stuff up and throw it in is really useful. In terms of the ride quality, it's nicely suspended. It is a big heavy bike. It feels planted. Even on uneven road surfaces like this, it's not particularly fidgety. The suspension does a really good job of damping things. And when you're up and moving, it's a really nice smooth ride. I know people talk a lot about the vibrations from these bikes, and yeah, if you're sat at a traffic light, this bike does shake and vibrate. But when you're up and moving, it's lovely and smooth, and that low down torque just gives you a belly full of power whenever you need it, and it's all nice and relaxed, and it feels calm until you look down at the speedo and realise that you are ticking along at quite a decent pace. Yes, it's no sports bike, but it will pull you along very nicely indeed. And it's actually, despite its weight, quite a nimble bike, and it's easy to ride. There's 120mm of ground clearance. Forward pegs give you a little bit more clearance on there, so I've only once scraped my foot or my heel on the floor when I've been riding, and that's largely because I forgot the type of bike I was riding, and I've taken a line on a corner that I would normally take on my KTM that I can obviously lean over much further. And there's been much talked about, you know, how these bikes are, you know, old technology and they haven't advanced forward, but I think that's part of the joy of them. When manufacturers talk about heritage and kind of a retro feel, I think Harley-Davidson are really at the top of that. They're obviously trying with new models now coming through, particularly things like the Pan America, to expand the range, but I don't think there's a more genuine brand when you talk about heritage. Now you could laugh and say, well, that's because it's antiquated design, but kind of isn't that what it's about to a certain extent, particularly for this type of bike? As I say, I'm not really a cruiser fan, I'm not a Harley fan, I'm not particularly a fan of any brand in terms of loyalty like that, but I've thoroughly enjoyed riding this bike. I don't know why I've enjoyed riding this bike. It's heavy, it's long, but it just brings a smile to my face when I jump on and come out for a ride. Actually, going back to what I was talking about the vibrations and the character of this engine. Now, I was going to talk about this, but actually I've just seen a fantastic video from Ryan F9, Fault9. If you follow that channel, I'm sure you've seen his stuff, and he does a really good explanation of how this twin motor works and why it does what it does. So I'll put a link to that in the top corner and you can go away and watch that. Brakes are very good on this. Obviously it's a big beast to pull to a stop, but they seem to work very well. And as I say, the suspension is doing a pretty good job. I know these roads around here are a little bit washboardy in places, but this soaks it up well. You've got no adjustability on the front, but you have got a hydraulic preload adjuster down at the back here, so that makes the adjusting the preload on the rear shock easy, and actually you can do it on the fly because you can reach down and grab it. I love the simplicity of, you know, things like the clock. We've just got a big sweepy speedometer in the front here, but there's a little digital bit at the bottom which is showing me my gear selector at the moment, the time and the fuel gauge, and using this little button over here I can cycle through that. So I can turn that into a rev counter, which you can see there. Another press shows me the mileage of the bike, trip A, trip B, my remaining range, and we're back to the time. And with this 18.9 litre tank, given the fuel consumption that they've suggested, you're looking at about 190 to 200 miles, depending on how you ride it, in terms of range, which is obviously very good. So even in the tight country lanes, I haven't got the lean angle that I want. I think it's about 25 degrees on this. There you go. I've just caught my heel on that corner where I leaned it over a little bit more, but that's because my feet are hanging right off the back of the pegs. But no complaints about performance. This bike is the pull from that 107 cubic inch motor is fantastic, and as I said, brakes are good. They do what they need to do, and having ridden this for a few days like I have, I get it. I get it. I get why people like Harleys. You do feel a little bit special when you ride it, especially a bike like this. Maybe it's a novelty for me, but it feels like an experience when you get on it. It's very happy at home on these kind of sweeping roads, and these roads are perfect for this bike. You can just sling it in and use that torque to pull you through. This seat is like sitting in an armchair. It is very comfortable. I don't have any backache, I don't have any arm ache, my knees are nice and relaxed. There's no doubting you could spend all day riding one of these and get off of it and feel pretty refreshed. I'll just stop for the horse. Okay. So maybe, just maybe, I found the Harley-Davidson that I would own. Again, I have nothing against the brand, it's just the type of riding I do. Generally not the sort of bike for me. So that's really about all I wanted to cover off on the numbers around the bike and my initial response to its ergonomics and the rider's comfort. I'm going to enjoy some of this weather. It looks like it's brightening up now, and I will catch up with you later on in the video.
So there you have it. For me, probably one of the most rounded all-round Harley-Davidsons. Now, I speak as somebody that doesn't come from a background of riding a lot of Harleys. I've ridden Sportsters, I've ridden road glides and street glides. So this for me is a good mix between the two sides of touring and performance, as Harley-Davidson would call it. It worked well as an all-round bike, and I have to say, on a nice sunny day, I really did enjoy riding it. It is incredibly comfortable, it's great for munching miles on, and if you want to roll up at your coffee shop and have a pose, it's a pretty nice looking bike as well. So as I say, at $15,995, that gets you into this bike at the base level. You've got to pay a few £100s more for a swanky paint job, and if you start then delving into the world of Harley-Davidson accessories, then the world is your oyster. On paper, looking at the spec sheets, this bike doesn't necessarily stack up, but on the road it's a different story. So if you haven't ridden a Harley-Davidson and maybe you've been put off by some of the reports that you see or some of the lifestyle imagery that comes with that, then ignore that. Take one out for a ride and see what you think. You might be pleasantly surprised like I was. So I'm hoping this will be the first of many Harley-Davidsons to come. I'm really looking forward to being able to get my hands on the Pan America if that comes off, because I actually quite like the look of the bike. And there's a lot of people, a lot of negativity out there, people saying that Harley-Davidson shouldn't be in this space and that the bike is too heavy and blah, 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 blah. Very few of those people have actually even seen one, let alone ridden one. And all the reports I've read of the bike being ridden have only said very good things about it. So if you'd like to get my take on that bike, keep watching the channel, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and obviously you'll get notified of any new videos that come out. That would be greatly appreciated. Also, smashing the like button helps with the algorithm, helps the channel grow, and for me that's really a great thing. So thanks again for watching, and until next time, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.